Hello and welcome to the Mothertongue podcast. Today we have a very special episode. I have, let's see, 6 moms that have received a closing ceremony, which is something that I offer in my practice that's fairly unique. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that is in a bit, but we're going to start with just a round of introductions. So whoever would like to go first, you can jump right in and just share your name and where you live and how many babies you have and anything else that you want to share about who you are.
I can start. I'm Grace. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I just have one baby who's with me right now.
Thank you.
I'm Heather, and I am a mom to two girls. One, he's almost 3, and the other one is 1.5. And I'm a stepmom to an 8-year-old boy.
And where are you joining from?
Oh, I'm joining from Costa Rica.
Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Sol, and I am here with my baby of 4 months today, and I'm joining today from Summertown, Tennessee, from the farm.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I'm Amber. I live in Columbia, Tennessee, and I'm a mom to 4 kids, ages 8, 6, 5, and 2.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm Bren, and I'm calling in from the Poetry, Georgia area. And I am a mom to a little that is 20 months, and I have another on the way, coming to join our family in July.
Yay. Thank you.
I'm Serena, and I am calling in from Summertown on the farm, and I am a mom of 3.
And what are their ages?
Oh, their ages are 11, 4 as of April 1st, and 2.
Yay. Happy birthday to both of you.
Thanks.
So before we dive into questions, I'm going to just share a little bit about what the closing ceremony is. And this is something that is practiced in various cultures around the world. I first learned it in Uganda, actually, but it was the Mayan version. And then I did a course with Layla B, and she's from Morocco. So I learned the Moroccan tradition, which I really love. And over time, I started to weave in my own elements to the ceremony. So it's kind of a 2-part ceremony. The first part is about letting go, what you want to let go of as you step into your new role, whether that's a mother for the first time or expanding your family. Each baby brings new aspects of ourselves out as mothers and as people. And so that part, we do a lot of body. The whole thing is very somatic, actually. It's somatic and it's spiritual, and it's about acknowledgement and integration. And so during that first part of the ceremony, we create a steam room usually in your bathroom, and it's called a hammam in Morocco. And we do some we apply clay to your body. And actually before that, we do a grounding and an intention setting process so that you have an opportunity to really think about what you're wanting to get out of the experience and why you're choosing to receive a closing ceremony. And once the intention is set, we apply clay to your body and we give you some time to sit over the steam. So there's steam in the room, and then you're also sitting over a pot of steaming herbs. So you're receiving a yoni steam or a vaginal steam at the same time. And so while the clay dries, we kind of let you be, and you receive that time to really reflect on what it is you're laying down, what you're letting go of as you cross this threshold in your life. And then we come back in, we apply a salt scrub, And so both the clay and the salt scrub are symbolic of shedding, right? We're drawing things out with the clay, and then we're shedding that upper layer of skin with the salt scrub. After that, we wrap you up in a nice warm robe, put some warm socks on you, and take you out to lie down on 6 cloths that are laid out to align with different parts of your body. And then we do some massage, and we explain that this part of the ceremony is about what you're calling in for yourself, for your life, your family, your work. What is it that you want to call in as you cross this threshold? And after that, we do a rocking of the various parts of the body and then a binding. So by the time you're done, you're wrapped up and you look like you're in a cocoon, which is kind of the idea, a chrysalis, because, you know, this is a transformational experience to become a mom. And again, whether that's for the first time or the 5th time, doesn't really matter. It's transformative each and every time. We leave you in that chrysalis to rest and to call in those things that you're wanting to bring into your life. And then we open you up at the end, and we give you usually some fruit, often dates if we have them. That's the tradition in Morocco, and some warm tea. And it's really a beautiful practice of honoring this liminal space that you're in, where you're not who you were anymore and you're not quite who you're becoming. And so it's this very flexible time where you get to choose how you're going to move forward. So that's the closing. And I'm going to move into questions, and we can just do this popcorn style. So if you feel called to answer a question, just unmute yourself. We can have more than one person respond to one question, and I'm sure other things will just arise in the flow. So my first question is, what drew you to having a closing ceremony? What was it that you wanted to receive out of it, and why did you choose to do it?
I'd like to answer on this one. For me, it was just the invitation for the time to honor the transition that I was going through. It was a really strong part of the practice during the pregnancy for me and my husband to make sure that the mother and the father was supported and honored in this birth, because we were birthing not only a child but a mother and a father into the world. And so much of what we were exposed to didn't really capture a lot of that support. So when you invited this opportunity for me to receive that just ceremonial opportunity to pause and to really be with the transition that is massive that I was going through and be held by others in that, I mean, we were just all in, and you know, it was an answer to what we were looking for already. And just reflecting on it with my husband, it was just so beautiful for me to be received and held by other mothers and other feminine energy, and receive the support and just be in that transition, which is something that I often hold space for myself and others in, personally and professionally. So that was huge for me also, to honor that I get to receive that as well. And he just thought it was beautiful to be held by other feminine energies and other women. So that was really why we chose to say yes to that invitation.
Thank you. I love that you mentioned the pause part, because that's something that we don't do well in our culture, that where we are just constantly going from one thing to the next. And it's really important, especially when you're going through something this huge, to pause so that you can really integrate what just happened and where you're going. Anyone else want to answer that question?
I'll just add that for, when we get married or when we graduate from one age group to the next or to the grade, there's a ceremony, there's an acknowledgement of the transition or the new commitment or the new time in your life. And so when the closing ceremony was offered as an option, I was like, wait, that there's such a thing to honor what I just went through, which is the, carrying a baby for 9 months and giving birth and going through all of that emotional process. I think that it should be the standard. I couldn't believe that it was something that I hadn't even heard of before. So to honor everything that it is to carry a child and then to give birth to the child, I feel it deserves the acknowledgement and the ceremony and the honoring of that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it should be standard. That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
I'll speak to that. All 4 of my births happened within the span of 6 years. And the transformation that occurred in me from who I was at the first birth to who I was by my 4th birth was so radical in the best possible way that birth can do if you're calling in awakened divine feminine midwives, birth journeyers, like at the farm and with Karina. And I, by my 4th, I feel like I transitioned from my first being a very westernized, conventional, in the hospital experience where an entire family on both sides flooded the room an hour and a half after I had given birth. Like, it was so much dissociation happening within me that it was not about me. And I realized, like, the process of giving up my power from the first birth experience to by the 4th birth, it was all about what was happening internally. I knew that I would be the best mother that I could be if I took my power back, focused on myself, nourished myself, honored myself, gave myself that ceremony, spoke up for my needs, figured out what those needs were. And having the closing ceremony was just such a beautiful way for me to look back and be like, just see the woman that I am. And I really feel like I carried everything that I acknowledged, everything that I let go of, and everything that I called in during that ceremony. I really did carry that with me into the next chapter of my life as a mom. And yeah, I don't know if I answered that directly, but it was powerful.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else want to add anything before we move to the next question? Okay, we'll go on and we can always revisit. So my next question was, how was the ceremony significant for your transition into motherhood? And some of you have kind of touched on that with the first question, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Hi. We might have Imris talking a little bit too. I think I hear several of my thoughts and feelings in what some of the others have already shared, but I felt like it was at one moment I felt as you were the binding, the tightening of the fabric or the bands around my body, it felt like a birth of myself. Like I was also going through the vaginal canal because it starts with the head and goes down the body. And I felt as I was being birthed as a mother. And then I quickly fell asleep as you let me lay there. And in moments I would just kind of come to and felt that embrace and felt that, kind of container or being held, being supported. And it felt as too, I had this, thought that came through that this must be what it's like to be in a burial shroud as well. And kind of letting that old me or maiden, archetype or whatever, however you feel, that part being laid to rest or acknowledging, so it
Sorry, sorry, go
So,
back.
no, I didn't mean to, I don't know where I left off. Anyway, I don't know what happened. I think it was yeah, a birth and a death, and the two are so intricately entwined, and honoring that me that allowed me to become a mother, all those steps that led before to this point, that gave me the strength to go through this baby's birth. And then you all let me have my, help me continue that into a birth of my own. And as you said, like within that intention, and it felt very significant to me too, um, when you were, touching my body, and or y'all were putting the elements on my body, the salt and the clay and the oil and the henna, and feeling that what the babies must feel as they're being, caressed for the first time by us in this earthly realm. And it felt so beautiful, and something that I don't think we, again, like has always been said, do enough of, or it isn't par for the course, which is so unfortunate. And our bodies go through so much um, just intense physical change that it feels so good to be relaxed and let however you are be. It was beautiful, with no expectation, and just receiving. And so, yeah, thank you. That was very nice.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. Yeah, it is very somatic, and also there's all these other elements, emotional, psychological, spiritual. The very first time I did one, and this was before I learned the Moroccan way, so it was much simpler. The mom just burst into tears, and I was like, "Oh, wow. This is much deeper than closing bones, right? This is closing. When we give birth, it's like we have to open up on all these levels. We have to open physically in a very big way, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, all these openings. And so it's like we don't want to stay that open walking through the world. It's too vulnerable. So this is an opportunity to close that up. And it's often the very first time that moms have received anything for themselves or done anything for themselves in terms of body work, depending on how early it's done. And the ceremony could be done, as early as a couple days after the birth, or as late as forever. I was told when I first learned this in Uganda that you could receive a closing no matter how many years after you've given birth, that it's still valid. And I actually did one for my mother when she turned 70, which was really beautiful way to honor her. And so, yeah, it can be used at all different times.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
It kind of goes in with your question too. For me, my pregnancy was such a tumultuous time in my life as a person and a woman. Karina knows this. She was my midwife and walked through it with me, but I was separated from my children's father during the entire pregnancy. And I realized near the end that I needed to come together with him in order to give birth. And so we did. And but I also burst into tears during the closing ceremony. And hearing you say that, Karina, it helped me kind of put into perspective how much emotion had been built up in my body during pregnancy, when you're just like, you just have to like kind of keep it all together for the baby, get to the birth, like get to that moment when your baby's born, and then you just kind of blast into the universe during labor. And the closing ceremony was the moment that created space with intention, that any emotion that I had felt during the pregnancy and the birth would not remain trapped in my body going forward.
Yeah.
And when I look back, that was the moment. It was specifically in the bath when you were rinsing the clay off of me that I just started crying. And realized that I needed to get that out. I needed to get that out because it brought me then into motherhood, not carrying those emotions. And I believe allowed me to be more present with my baby in the moment rather than trying to replay all those emotions from the pregnancy and the birth, because they had space to come out and be released and be felt and acknowledged and witnessed. You know, it's not just me alone crying with my baby in a bedroom. It's, you know, the witness of the matriarch and you as our midwife.
I just got chills. Yeah, the witnessing is so powerful. Aside from what's going on for you internally, I think that's another piece of it, is just being witnessed. Just like Heather was saying, we have all these ceremonies at these other transitions in our life where we get to be witnessed, but we don't have this in most, for most of us here in America. And you wrote a really powerful like poem or piece after you had your closing that just blew me away. And I'm wondering if you could maybe share that, if I could put that in the show notes, if you'd be willing to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, I would like to speak to the feeling the power of being witnessed, because that was definitely one of the more significant elements for me. And this kind of ties into just how part of my pregnancy and how I gave birth necessarily. I feel like for all of us, the closing ceremony, you know, it's linked to all of that. But Karina was my midwife, and but my birth did not go as planned. I ended up getting a planned C-section at almost 42 weeks due to being breech. And that birth, because it was planned and I didn't go into labor, it was almost like my journey into motherhood was like flipping a switch just from A to B. Like there was no durational aspect of labor to help me feel that transition. It was just sudden. And also because it was just this quick procedure, I mean, of course, like I'm grateful that we have the ability to have that. They are an option, C-sections, and you know, these trained people helped birth my baby, but because it's that, just the context of just kind of you're in and you're out, you're on the surgical table and then you have your baby there, it didn't feel like I went through a durational witnessing. And I didn't expect to get that necessarily from the closing ceremony. I just knew that I was like a person that was kind of like already into my apologies. He's starting a new vocal phase, but I knew I was already into sort of like ritual practices, and so I was like, let's do this. And then halfway through receiving the closing ceremony, I was just so struck by how much I was feeling like I was receiving from it, and just the form of like being tended to and like allowing me to feel this transition. And it was definitely just very very powerful. Like it struck me that it was probably like a moment of receiving care like more intensely than I had ever received previously, and in terms of its duration and its complete sacrifice. And it was, yeah, I mean, I just like, it definitely brought me to tears, and I was like, I want for everybody to experience this level of care at some point in their lives because of just how powerful it was.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's a common sentiment that we get after people receive a closing. And I'm really glad that you're here to share the perspective of somebody who gave birth surgically, because I think all the more reason to do a closing, and particularly when you don't have that labor leading up to a surgical birth. And I hear that, it really makes sense to me that it would feel just sort of abrupt, and like the process was not there. And that's such a big part of making the transition, is that we go through this process. So for those of you that are listening, that have had a cesarean birth, I think this is a really good option for you to receive everything that Grace just shared. Heather, you were previously on one of the podcast episodes because you gave birth vaginally with a breech. And I remember toward the end of the interview, we talked about the closing briefly. That was actually what gave me the idea to do a whole episode on it. And you said it was like a funeral for the old self. And I thought that was really fascinating to put it in those terms. I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think maybe it was Amber or Zoll or Brent, one of you mentioned that too, but it was it was ceremonial for saying goodbye to who I was previous to this moment and previous to being a mother of now two, and how my heart has needed to open and expand to accommodate being a mother to another human being. And it just it gave me the moment and the time not only to be witness, but to witness myself experiencing the transition and to be with myself through that. And it's like, so it felt like watching the old self die, or and the new one come to life, and the time to really consider what that felt like and what my intentions were moving forward. And yeah, it's such a big deal to be a mom, and it's such a big deal. And I think that was the big awakening too. I've had people close to me in my life die, and that's such a big deal too. And to give birth to new life when one exits and one enters, like, that's a big deal. And it just felt right, and it felt to take the time and the space to honor it, and to honor myself and the emotions that are going to be involved in this transition, and the roles that I need to step up to be there for myself and there for my family moving forward.
Yeah, thank you. It is huge, and we could say that over and over again and it wouldn't be enough.
I'd like to add in on the conversation. Just what's kind of coming up for me is just the integration piece. It's part of my pregnancy was really about getting to know me even at a deeper level, and unveiling these parts that needed to come up and be seen and witnessed and held, and then potentially released and reborn. And so this opportunity supported what I knew was my next phase in my integration, my personal integration process and embodiment. I work in the realm of conscious integration. So it's like, this is exactly what I need. And this was the space, as we've kind of pointed to like allow for that fully to integrate. And I was integrating a different way of being, coming from a people pleasing, self-sacrificing type mother nurturing energy that didn't allow or receive support. I was over giving and empty. And had to really work through that awareness and unfolding and surfacing up to the birth and the closing, which then I knew that this would support me in claiming what I wanted to embody. So it was very much a somatic and practical claiming to what I wanted to embody in that moment by saying, I do deserve to receive and be supported as I step into even more depth of the embodiment of the divine feminine, of the divine mother that can be held and supported so that we can give from the depths that we give when we're in this full embodiment. So earlier, I think Karina, you mentioned the integration piece, and as everyone was talking about their experience, it absolutely is that container to allow to grieve what needs to be grieved and celebrate what was, as we also celebrate and start to embody and actualize and claim what we are now going to step into. And that allows us to integrate and walk into motherhood in our wholeness. And that's really that's how it supported me in my embodiment. It was me claiming that with a very physical process and practice, and where I got to simply receive. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I love what you're speaking to is something that I often talk about in my work with Motherfly is we're, as a generation of moms, we are making that shift, ideally making that shift from this old archetype of the martyr and then the super mom, where we're giving to the point where we're harming ourselves. And we're juggling all these different things because we're allowed to be these free women that can have careers and other callings. And what I'm hoping in my work to midwife into being is a new archetype for motherhood, which I call the motherfly. And the motherfly is that mother that knows that she's worthy of receiving as well, and that she has boundaries to how much she's going to give so that she's not giving from an empty cup. And I think this is within the realm of motherhood, the work of our time. And the closing is, yeah, I like that you're speaking to that it's one way that we can practically and physically embody that transition. So yeah, thank you for bringing that forth. And I know, Serena, you wanted to say something.
Well, I so agree that this is the work of our time. I mean, this acknowledgement is so valuable, and just what our society is missing. The discharge planners and the social workers at the hospitals are overwhelmed with what they're dealing with. And it's because, the way that our society is run right now, mothers are going back to work at 2 weeks, and that's like no acknowledgement of what somebody has gone through physically or emotionally to bring a new life into the world. And really what that new life needs is not a mother running off to work in 2 weeks. There's so many things that everyone said that really resonate with me. I received my closing after my third birth, and I had all of this experience, working in birth, that I was bringing to the table about how I wanted things to go. And I love the analogy that Amber used of being blown open. And so I had blown open, given birth, and it was fast and ferocious, an hour and a half of labor. And my baby, I didn't get to hold my baby. The only thing that I got to do was turn him upside down to try to get meconium out of his mouth while the midwife was, doing what she needed to save him. And he quickly got rushed off to the hospital. And so I was kind of reeling because I was really, I knew so much about how I wanted it to go. And there he was, I shot him out, and he was traveling down the road, 40 minutes away from me. And I had to stay so that I could, stabilize post the birth. And I was very much driven to get to him. And it was, right around Christmas time. So I immediately was like having to think about how I was going to navigate being a mom of 3 with 2 kids at home, and one that was headed to the Vanderbilt NICU. And I came home for Christmas for my older kids because it felt, this is just what I was having to do. And grandma stepped into the NICU, and Karina and Leah swooped in and closed me up. And I just think that it was so valuable because I was hardly able to change my co-text to think about what was going on with me at all. It was just, thinking about what was going on with my baby, which was really serious. And um, it gave me that pause to kind of, I felt like I could put my big girl pants on and go, just that it sealed me up emotionally and kind of gave me I didn't need much, just some acknowledgement of like what happened. And you know and I was able to get back to my baby, and I felt like that it was huge, in that moment where I was second on the list. And any mom would feel that way. um I felt appreciated and almost worshiped in a way, and I know that when I get to participate in it, that's what a closing ceremony that is, that I feel like we're worshiping the mother. And it's certainly in my mind that an antidote to some of society's problems, that if we did this across the board and gave it to every mom that gives birth, um, that the world would be a better place.
Absolutely. I love that worshiping. Over the summer, I had the opportunity to go to Morocco and with other women who had done this training and to receive these different pieces of the closing ceremony. And so in Morocco, they have a special name that they give to the new mom. It's nafsa. And so that means new mother. And part of the process in their culture is that everyone goes to the hammam. And then the nafsa wears all white because she's like a bride. They treat her like a bride. And we were in the place where we have our classes, and we had to walk to the hammam, and all of a sudden there was these two guys that came in and started to serenade us with music, traditional music. And that's part of the process. And so they follow you. Then we walked to the hammam, we walked through the village, and they followed us playing their instruments. And we looked like quite a sight because we're clearly foreigners making this walk to the hammam. But it was so beautiful it was like this worshiping, this honoring. And the hammam there is just like a big room with these women that sit there, that stay there, and they're ready to steam you and scrub you. And it just felt like such an ancient feminine energetic there. And while we were waiting, we sat on steaming mint. It's a certain type of mint. I'm forgetting that specific type, but we sit on the mint while we wait for one of the ladies to come and scrub us. And then you're like lying down on the floor, and they're just like vigorously scrubbing you with something called a kessa glove, which is like kind of like a loofah type glove. And it's such a vulnerable thing to be completely naked. And at the same time, I felt so safe and so nurtured and so accepted and loved. And I left there feeling like a newborn baby, just like super fresh. My skin was really soft and ready for like a really good sleep. So it is this honoring and this worshiping of the Divine Mother that we all should receive and that we all deserve to receive. In the beginning of a closing, I have you set an intention, and I would love if anyone wants to share if they remember what their intention was, and did they fulfill on it, and if so, how was that fulfillment? How did it become fulfilled?
My intention was to trust myself. Um, I, as a mom, had again kind of gone back to reclaiming my power. I had given away and been trained to give away my truth, my needs, my wants, my intuition. And so in that closing ceremony, my intention was to reclaim my trust in myself, that I was going to follow through on that, and that whatever came from me trusting myself, I would affirm as for me and for my highest good. And wow, did I live that out. I consciously uncoupled from my children's father 2 years after our fourth birth. So my baby is 2 now, and I am 5 months into being an individual, which my situation was unique. Being raised in the religion that I was, it was basically an arranged marriage, and so the concept of me being an individual as a woman is like a brand new baby concept. And when I trace it back, the moment that that concept was really born in me was the moment that I set that intention during my closing ceremony to trust myself.
Wow. So powerful. Love that. Thank you.
I would like to share on that. I think that my intention was to release some of the anger that I've held on to, and that self-doubt, that questioning, that little voice or that feeling that might come up, and then inviting in clarity, because there is that question that we are, like you said, Amber, like we're taught these things to question ourselves, doubt. And so that clarity upon hearing that voice, and then fun. Feel like for all these reasons in the world, I've not been fun, and having a little baby, I want to enjoy and laugh and dance more. And that evening after, Serena and Karina did the ceremony for me, immediately there were some changes. I think there's a lot of that when there's an aha moment, or like that clarity comes through. And also, I think Heather mentioned, there is there's a process to it, or there's a work that comes to it as well. There is that, like, oh, now I have this, but it's maintaining it. It's feeling that safety, because I hadn't felt safe, like when y'all's hands were on me and surrounding me and hugging me for a while. And now it's my job to still be safe, to cultivate these situations, or this way. And so I think the intention, there were parts of it that were just like falling into place perfectly, and now it's up to me to maintain that that mentality, or the calmness within, despite the turmoil that might be around me. And so, yes, I do think that there was an immediate effect, and then also there's this longer lasting stuff. And so many times in moments, I go back to being surrounded by those candles and breathing in those herbs, and feeling that, feeling my body, because often I'll do that disconnect. I don't remember what it's called now, like dissociation, right? And just kind of go through it, just get through it. This is what I have to do. And so there's many times that I return to that and just feel myself, for it, because I don't know, somehow I don't process maybe hearing it, or the words don't come, but it's just a feeling. And so that has helped me in many times, since it hasn't been that long, right? But it's been great, amazing, and just, yeah, that safety, that sense of safety that I felt, that I would like to be able to share with my baby, and then hopefully other mothers in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. It really touches me to hear that the impact is not just in that moment and in that ceremony, but that you bring it into your life, and that you still draw from that. Thank you.
I'll add to this one. It's a similar theme. Mine was really about my power and embodying it, and releasing any insecurities and distrust or fears I had around showing my authenticity and my power. And that was my intention, was to stop hiding and to really embrace how powerful I am, and letting it be seen, not just hiding, and supporting myself through life and my unfolding. But it was time to let go of those people pleasing patterns and those insecure patterns that would have me self-protect by dimming or retreating. And that intention setting was powerful in itself, and it has been unfolding. I've been given opportunity after opportunity to be seen in my power and practice healthy boundary setting, to continue to release and rebuild secure patterning within myself and within relationships. And it's been fascinating to see it unfold. And now, almost exactly 2 years to the date, I'm in this process again, and I'm seeing a different version of me, and the world is seeing my most authentic self and my power, and it's being received. And then even when it's not received, or it's not understood, it doesn't impact me like it used to. It's just a redirection, not rejection. And I'm still shining. And I just know that it's redirecting my nurturing, redirecting my mothering nature and my caring nature that I bring into everything that I do. It just redirects me to those that are ready to receive what I hold. And so it feels really good, this go around, to really stay embodied in my power when being so seen. So it was a beautiful gift. And the intention, I would say that what you create and what this container brings in to speak and embody and actualize an intention will happen and will support your journey into that full embodiment of it, in the timeline that is aligned for you. But it's a powerful container. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, what I hear you saying is that now when people aren't able to receive you as a non-dimmed down version of yourself, and they're not able to receive you in your power and in your brilliance, it's like you're not taking it personally. You're just like, okay, that person's not ready, and that's really their own stuff. It's not my stuff to handle. Going back to the container piece, if we think of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, which I think is like one of the most classic symbols of transformation, the caterpillar, it's not like the caterpillar like reads a bunch of self-help books and then becomes this better version of themselves. They actually completely dissolve, right? They go into the chrysalis, and the cells turn into these, they're called imaginal cells. And it's almost like returning to the uncarved block and returning to the void, and then getting to recreate yourself on the other side. And it's very similar to the experience of being postpartum, where we kind of do turn to mush. We feel like we've turned to mush. Our brains are all over the place, and we're not sleeping a lot, and we're learning how to tend to this tiny human. And I like to say what creates the chrysalis for mothers going through this process is the community. It's the village. It's the witnessing. It's the coming together, like just in this space, all the things that you have shared, you together are creating a container. And it's really powerful what happens in a group, like the synergy that happens inside of a group setting. I would love to ask Serena now to talk a little bit, because she's had the opportunity not only to receive, but to offer this ceremony alongside me to, I think, all of you. She was there. Well, maybe I'm not sure about Amber, but most of you, she was there. And so what is it like to be on the other side, where you're actually getting to give this gift?
I mean, it's the best, actually. It's one of my favorite things, because you know, I feel like it's a calling. It's scratching an itch, just because, you know, as I transition into my role as a midwife, I'm leaving a really fulfilling job in the ER where I like knew that I was helping people. And when I left the ER, you know, I came up with that, like, I indeed was supposed to follow this path to be a midwife, because everybody has a birth mother, you know, regardless of how you identify or any of that. Everybody has a birth mother, whether you're a surrogate, giving your baby up for adoption. So I felt like that's like helping society, but understanding, like, with my background in the ER and working closely with social workers and reading the news, you know, I feel like that acknowledging motherhood on this level with a closing ceremony, and, you know, it's really setting moms up for their postpartum because it's giving you that pause, um, so that you can proceed as a mom, you know, as a mother times however many babies you have. And um so, you know, it's just a gift. I talked about, you know, worshiping the mother, and that's what it feels like. It's just like this acknowledgement to every part of your body that went through this physical process. And also the emotional part, you know, it brings all of it in, how you use your mind, how you use your heart, how, you know, how your pelvis opened, how your arms have carried your baby. And, you know, it's just, our society is broken, and, you know, it might sound extreme, but I think that, you know, it's the antidote to things like kids going in and having school shootings, that kind of thing, which, you know, I know that that's like it's wild to say that, but it's, you know, there's proof that our society is hurting. And so this is different. This is different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a salve, right, for
Mhm.
all of the cultural woundings and pain. I really believe that. So I know that we have to close. I'd love to close by just asking each of you to share in a word or a sentence what you most took away from your closing.
For me, it was honoring myself, honoring the process, and honoring the uh, great role of being a mother.
Mine was that it is not only right, but also a worthy experience for me to consider myself and trust myself as a mother.
And I'm going to steal the theme of integration. For me, just being able to integrate whatever disappointments I had about my birth, and almost have this surrogate new birth experience, a birth of motherhood.
For me, the words receive. You know, it's a gift for me to receive what I already give in abundance, and allowing me to receive as I step into and continue in the path of the Divine Mother.
Thank you.
And I'll say love.
Beautiful.
I felt seen.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, well, thank all of you for participating today. I receive so much from each of you, and I receive so much each time I get to do a closing. I always tell Serena I could do this all day, every day. Like, it's just really satisfying to have this honoring, you know, as my work in the world as a midwife and as a facilitator. This is like the epitome of what I want to offer. The honoring, the integration, the witnessing, the acknowledgement. So it's just a pleasure and a joy to be able to offer that. And for all of you listening that have never heard of this or received it, I encourage you to reach out if you're local, and we would love to offer that to you. And if you're not local, then see if there's anyone in your area that offers it, because no matter how far out you are from having given birth, there's a gift in it, and there's something to receive. So once again, thank you all for your time. I know you're busy moms, and I appreciate you all showing up.
Thank you.